4:30 in the morning. Teeth brushed. Gonna try to have a quick poo. And then hitting the road. This is so nice. Wow. Aroo!
The Rocky Mountains are precious and sacred to us. We knew every trail and mountain pass in this area. These mountains are our temples, our sanctuaries, and our resting places. They are a place of hope, a place of vision, a place of refuge. These mountains are our sacred places. The words of Stony Chief John Snow immortalize the area west of what we now know as Calgary. A solace from the city race, these hills provide a slower pace. Treat them unkind and we may see a city spread from A to B. Like a faux musical rhyme, our settler sanctification efforts, drawn up in legalese bearing the malapropic moniker of an Axpo survivor, pale in comparison. Kananaskis, Alberta's sacred space, where vision quests abound still, ever evading the searching glint of high beams that punctuate the long night still. Kananaskis, the comfort of flowing revenue sent us down the pipeline to seek a primitive world, to emulate the poverty of our forebears in a safe mountain setting, our hands washed clean of the oils and grime of another era. Kananaskis, as seen on Instagram, a forgotten gem, hashtag the great outdoors, hashtag wild YYC. We all come for our own reasons, our own, dare I say, sacred reasons. Us guidebook reading old guard have been succeeded by novice outdoors folk and picnickers fueled by internet hype. A slice of life from the Stony who know all too well how it feels to be supplanted. Guidebooks, what are they but printing press powered humans? Many Stony became guides for our settler ancestors, the path-seeking Pallisers and nugget-bound Nordags alike. Guidebooks. Guides. Guide. Video? It's hardly a novel concept, but Kananaskis is starkly lacking in such a capacity, and it needs guides now more than ever. Privatization threats. Environmental measure rescindments. Renegade trails sprouting up everywhere. Which makes sense, because every highway shoulder now resembles a parking lot. Search and rescue is now a full-time profession, even on weekdays, which is great news for EMTs, but does not suggest a healthy public safety record. But I see hope. We are in danger of forgetting the nuances of a sacred space, but we are not there yet, for these hills are rich with spirit, and the stories tell themselves. Join me as I circumnavigate these spaces, casting light on their deep significance to generations old and new. My name is Liam Klein. Welcome to Upthrusts from my youth. Upthrust, intransitive verb, to rise with an upward thrust, or noun, an uplift of part of the Earth's crust. Believe it or not, both of these terms apply to my grand adventure. Since leaving my cushy tech job a while back, I've been searching for meaning in all parts of the world, both outer and inner. In doing so, I've uncovered what many sages and sacred ones have long proffered, that meaning is not sought, it is created. Rising up from my fettling journey through space and time, in a final hurrah before regaining gainful employment, I seek to sculpt meaning from the very bones of my past. Intransitive verb, to rise with an upward thrust. Adjunctly, much like the Canadian Rockies' slow extrusive molding into the beautiful shapes we see today, the preparatory process was novel, time-consuming, and filled with grit. Noun, an uplift of part of the Earth's crust. What follows is a brief exposure to this adjunct analogous noun, a necessary predicate to a more adventuresome transitive verb. From my home in Victoria, the long wet winter months were spent training, both physically and mentally, building a culinary contingency for 40 days on the trail, and performing research. Being ever the thrister, I wove in as many cross benefits as I could. The Uber Eats gravy train quickly ran dry. and I rapidly pivoted to taking odd casual labor jobs, most of them construction. Unfortunately, filming such duties would have resulted in a savage piss-taking onslaught, so a dramatic, continuous outline reenactment shall have to suffice. Designing my food regimen was a calculated affair. But not without its serendipity.
So much bok choy.
Oh, that's right. Those are dumpsters. Nearly 60% of Canada's food goes to waste each year, much of it at the grocery store level. I used to do this all the time in college, but stopped when I could afford not to. But now I'm on the public record, which presents a distinct opportunity. I recently read this book called A Complex Coast, written by this cool dude named David, whom I knew in college. He elegantly used the book as a platform to highlight the severity of food waste in this country, and I sought to follow suit. It's been a mere 10 years since David prepped for his grand adventure, and the diving landscape has changed significantly. Nearly all major grocery stores now utilize trash compactors, like this one seen here. Oh shit. Like, I get how it makes things cheaper for the store because it effectively smushes down the garbage, but it's taking like perfectly compostable food waste and diverting it to the landfill, which here in the Saanich Peninsula means cutting into some of the best mountain bike trails in the country. I love Who's Your Daddy, and they just redid the drops on it too. Oh, and also they're cutting down a bunch of mature trees, 73 acres of it, impacting the habitat of 16 species at risk, including the rare western screech owl. The greatest irony of this pivot to trash compactors is that it's actually illegal for mere peasants like you and I to ban our food scraps, a ban that's actually resulted in fines up to $1,000. But grocery stores get away with it scot-free. And it'd be one thing if these trash compactors were already present when the ban came into effect, except that occurred in 2015, around the same time the trash compactor mania really kicked into gear. Well, it really grinds my gears. So I'm out. Fortunately, a few diving spots still exist, enough to provide me with the requisite 40 days of victuals. In conjunction with a plethora of beans and peas, and the handy set of Excalibur dehydrators, courtesy of the Victoria Tool Library, these meals are now fit for a king. With all this fitness in meals, I was truly ready for anything. So I prepped an ambitious set of days, cycling and hiking and climbing to my heart's content. Kananaskis has this public land use policy, which allows for wild camping in designated areas 1 kilometer from a road or trail. I took full advantage of this policy where I could, which gave a schedule a great deal of flexibility. With final preparations, including detailed background research, scheduled for my stint in Calgary, I was off to the races. That is, until the first few premonitions began to rain down. Initial plans to drive my kid out to the Rockies were curtailed by unfortunate car drama. The beloved Pontiac Torrent, which carried me all the way to Mexico and back the other year, was finished. Turns out this teeny tiny perforation in the transmission control panel screen was all it took to destroy the entire drivetrain. As the torque converter clutch plate slammed out my last dregs of hope of a simple journey across the province, panic set in. How the hell was I going to get 40 days worth of food and kit onto a domestic flight? Stripping out non-essentials, pledging to buy what I could over in Calgary, I just barely managed to shove everything into a check bag and a carry-on. But in my haste, I neglected to tie at the laces of my boots, resulting in a massive, fully laden wipeout coming off the plane. You know that part of the airport where they say, "Do not stop, alarms will sound"? Well, it turns out they ain't bluffing. As I screamed in agony, dragging my encumbered balloon-sized knee out of no man's land, the stark words of a shrieking passerby mirrored those inside my head. Oh my God, you are going to die. Were these merely the ruminations of a melodramatic, stressed-out airport denizen? Or were they the foretelling of something deeper, something more profound? I chose to believe the former. One must maintain hope in these dire times. I swore to do better. Laced my boots up tight from here on in. Keep a level head.
I'm starting to see little shadow people.
Never trust domestic auto manufacturers. Good old-fashioned grit and restraint would get me through this. I had faith. Here at the bicycle self-powered Costco, witness the most overpackaged honey. Seriously, it's only half a kilo. I feel like a bit of a raging narcissist filming this, but whatever, it's for a cause. It's important to evenly balance out the panniers with these handy kilogram markers. It makes it a lot easier. All right, we got our full setup of kit here. What do we got? We got biking stuff, finish line wet lube, climbing gear, got some tat, a couple of ice axes, construction worker-ified climbing hat, whole bunch of strapping. Should probably consolidate all this first aid and med stuff. Acne cream, Zincofax diaper rash cream antiperspirant for reducing saddle sores. We got our dry bag, which also doubles as a frame bag with this provided cordelette. We got a penny whistle for luring the bears. I made this out of aluminum flashing. I'm pretty stoked to try it as a heat shield. We got this thing, nifty little thing so you don't trash your throw bag for doing the bear hang. Tent, doesn't have a bag anymore. A little bit of a music festival fiasco years ago, don't want to talk about it. I got bright orange tarp so that if I eat my bears, you know, people can find me. Here in the drying rack, we have some vintage Quebec Suogi 90s cycling shorts and some equally vintage 1980s, and well, I don't know what these are. I guess they're swim trunks. And we got this complimentary Arc'teryx fleece. More on that later. Snowshoes, because apparently May in the Rockies is still winter. We got some Pipeliner Rig Tac Super Duper Kevlar gloves. And last but not least, we have my flag with my logo on it. So I just wanted to highlight how many electronics do I have on this budget mission. Portable hard drive, ebook reader, digital camera for underwater footage, headlamp, backup headlamp, a million portable batteries, solar panel for charging my watch, 2 extra batteries for the headlamp, a bunch of chargers for charging on the road, a bunch of memory cards, backup headphones. And then we've also got this laptop here for periodically dumping stuff. It's just crazy how friggin' electrified everything has become. And like, you better believe that anything professional or even semi-pro is like 10 times this much gear. So I'd like to introduce you to some sweet literary treats from the 90s. We got backcountry biking in the Canadian Rockies. Look at that badass skull mountain bike tattoo. Canty brakes, old school SPD clipless pedals. Very cool. Scrambles in the Canadian Rockies. Look at that get up. Friggin' metal hard hat, you know, flannel, that pose. Very badass, very cool. We got selected alpine climbs in the Canadian Rockies. Now this one's also known as the Alpine Book of Lies due to its scant descriptions and very liberal timings, you know. They just say it'll be done in a day or it's a long day, and, you know, frequently people get benighted. But, I mean, look at some of this stuff, you know. This is a hard climb. It's 5'4", and it's like one paragraph. Some of this stuff is just scrambles, but, you know, one paragraph, and look at this route. You know, you gotta go up these rock bands, you gotta go up this glacier. There's nothing about that in the description. You just had to figure it out on the fly. That's just how things were. Backcountry biking in the Canadian Rockies, it's a little more verbose. It keeps things badass in a different way, though. Hardcore enduro ride. People will just rip on these like old horse trails and exploration roads for like tens of kilometers, sometimes up to like 80, and they just shred it. You know, this guy's got a rigid stem or a rigid fork. Some of them just the most people would have would be like 3 inches of travel. Now people got crazy travel, but you know, it's just people just rip. That's when men were men, as my buddy John would say, or women were women, but adults were adults. But you get the picture. But yeah, different time. Very cool. You thought we'd gone over all the pack stuff, but no, there's more. We got all these caches, got some extra fuel, extra food, so much food. This is like almost 30 days worth of food. Got some extra supplies, we got some tat, got some first aid stuff. Got to distribute these around Kananaskis tomorrow. Gonna be a fun outing. So, a bit of a disclaimer. I really tried my best to find people to carpool out with so I could still be carbon neutral, but alas, no one was biting. So I had no other viable option but to drive the food caches out myself. But the rest of the trip was indeed self-propelled.
Feels super surreal riding this highway with no traffic on it. That's actually one of the ridges that I'm going to do back there. That is the scene with similar shadowing and my sister Alana Klein's best photo ever. It's a beautiful photo, you should check it out. Alright, this trail is looking like pure slush. I can't say I've ever worn snowshoes with running shoes before, but first time for everything. Oh, look at that. A little bit of spin drift, a little bit of slough. Alright, here we come to Elbow Lake Backcountry Campground. Aha! And here we have our bear bins. Ah, sweet. They're not locked up. I don't know why they would be, but you never know. We got our Zap Strap garbage bag full of grub. We got our permission notice. Mwah. Farewell, sweet, sweet, sweet food cache. See you in a few days. Change from winter to summer. Winter, summer. This goes up to the Kananaskis Fire Lookout. I should mention about the lookout. At one time when I was a youth, been out in the backcountry for a few long weeks, and at the top I had a long deserved piss. I didn't realize that there was a fire warden in the house, and he came bolting out with his big 10-gallon hat being like, "What the hell are you doing? My wife's in there." I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. And he's just flipping out because I was pissing right on his putting green. Oops. The next year, I asked him if one of the trails, Bolton Creek, was open or whether there's a bunch of deadfall. And he was like, "No, it's good." And I swear, to this day, he remembered me and he screwed me over because Bolton Creek was not good. It was totally flooded out. And it took me forever. I had to hike a bike. So, moral of the story, don't piss off the fire warden. Yeah, for your health. And now, on to the next cache spot. We are at the North Interlakes. North Kananaskis Lake. Definitely missing the full suspension bike on these little uphill jaunts. This stretch of trail always kind of felt Lord of the Ringsian to me. I don't know why. Man, bikes have come a long ways in 20 years. We are at the point campsite. Got our second cache. Good farewell. Done. Whee! To the left, we have the lovely Lower Kananaskis Lake. Excited for some Vietnamese food. Over now.
What followed was the calm before the storm. Or really, the actual storm before the proverbial storm, as it rained for about a week. So I bided my time, working in my dad's project house where I could, waiting for that special weather window to emerge from my parents' house onto the open road. Alright, it is the day of the event, and I am running very behind. I think I'm going to have to split day one into 2 days, which was suspected, I guess, but still a bummer. I didn't anticipate having social calls last night, which kept me up till almost midnight, which is fair. I'd probably get as much socializing in as well I can, but yeah. It also took me like half an hour just to compress all this stuff, and that's not including tearing down the tent. That's not including making breakfast. That's not even including packing up the bike. So I definitely gotta get faster. Oh my word, that took like 45 minutes. Pangies. This pack is significantly bigger than I anticipated. Okay, testing out the mic setup attached to the handlebars. Look at all this stuff. It's gonna be a heavy load. I'm gonna eat some lunch and wait out this thunderstorm and then get a move on. Learn more about the parks, or offer some trail building time or funds to the Friends of Kananaskis at kananaskis.org. They help keep the parks run smoothly, are volunteer-based, and they're also helping me promote this video, so help a brother out.